Catholic Youth Synod working document calls abortion, homosexuality, especially controversial. March 27, 2018, LifeSite News. A working document for the upcoming Synod on Youth, allegedly drafted by young people, says Catholic teaching on contraception, abortion, homosexuality, cohabitation is especially controversial, and that they may want the Church to change her teachings. About 300 young people from around the world were in Rome March 19th to the 24th at the inaugural pre-synodal meeting, which produced a working document to be put before the bishops for consideration at the synod in October. The document was published over the weekend and officially delivered to Pope Francis by young people on Palm Sunday. The 15th Ordinary General Assembly of the Synod of Bishops is centered on young people, the faith, and vocational discernment. It is billed by the Vatican as an expression of the Church's pastoral concern for the young. When the Youth Synod was first announced, Catholic observers were leery of its intent. This was because of the apparent manipulations of the recent extraordinary and ordinary synods on the family that advocated for changes in the Catholic Church's teachings on human sexuality, marriage, and the family. The fruit of the synod on the family was Pope Francis's controversial exhortation, Amoris Laetitia, which signaled permission for Catholics living in objectively sinful unions to receive Holy Communion. The pre-synod meeting was open to people between the ages of 16 and 29, and national bishops' conferences, other Catholic institutions, and the Vatican's Synod office chose the participants. The group included Catholics, non-believers, and people of other faiths, including Muslims. Some 15,000 others were to have also contributed to the discussion online through Facebook groups, and I made a post about that, about how they feel that the what they had to say wasn't really included to any great extent. Continuing here, preliminary reaction among Catholic analysts to the Youth Synod working document ranges from the report being somewhat helpful but predictably heterodox to its consisting of functional Arianism. Wow. First Thing senior editor Matthew Smith says the report is bogus and representative of the older generation's imposition of its desire on the youth today. This document does not speak for young Catholics, Smith writes. It fails to represent either the Catholic faith or the young people who profess it. Something similar occurred this week at the Vatican, where 300 youths selected by silver-haired bishops were asked to tell those bishops what young people really want, writes Smith. In an opening address to this pre-synodal meeting, Pope Francis said he hoped the event would lead to a church with a young face. But the result is a botched plastic surgery, a grotesque of old ideas stretched and reshaped to mimic youth. The document is supposed to have been written by young Catholics for the benefit of bishops, he says, but it eerily repeats what certain bishops have long been saying. For instance, the youths declared, "Sometimes in the church it is hard to overcome the logic of 'it has always been done that way,'" writes Smith. But at the opening of the meeting, Francis had said the same thing. You provoke us to break free of the logic of it has always been done that way. This is not dialogue, states Schmitz, it is an echo. Schmitz criticizes the document for its sly disparagement of sanctity, deflation of priesthood and religious life, and for calling Christian morality into question. The document even manifests a strange prejudice against the consecrated space of the sanctuary, Smith said, and manifests an aversion to whatever is sacred, holy, and divine. All this amounts to a kind of functional Arianism, a stress on the church's human dimension at the expense of the divine, he says. The document laments that people perceive Christ as distant from the human experience. In order to overcome this gap, the document urges us to understand more deeply the person of Christ, his life, and his humanity, Schmitz writes. His divinity goes unmentioned. Chad C. Peckholt shared Schmitz's analysis on social media. Adults should be on guard against using the youth to relieve their own or to advance their own agendas, left, right, or otherwise, the professor of historical and systematic theology for the Catholic University of America writes on Facebook. Matthew Schmitz explains why the recent Youth Synod report fails the sniff test, seeking a progressive end. Mikey Hickson speculates that more manipulation is afoot in the current synod process in a report for 1 Peter 5. The near future will likely show in what manner this new youth document will be used for more progressive purposes than what is perceptible at first sight, Hickson says. She details aspects of the pre-synod document, including its stating that youth feel the church oftentimes appears as too sensitive and is often associated with excessive moralism, and they need a church that is welcoming and merciful along with inclusion. Hickson also notes how the document's authors express hope on the part of some for changes in the church's teaching issues, controversial today, such as contraception, abortion, homosexuality, cohabitation, marriage, and how the priesthood is perceived in different realities in the church. The subject of the role of women factors into the document 4 times, and Hickson points out as well how 2 representatives of the feminist organization, Voices of Faith, have been invited to participate in a pre-synod meeting, with 1 member of the drafting team for the final document. It certainly has given individuals the chance to promote their own views with regard to what the church should change in order, punitively, to please the world of the young, she wrote. Hickson concludes, and we also remember how it took Pope Francis 2 synods to reach the goal he had intended from the beginning with regard to the marriage question. Well, the article is rather long and there's quite a bit more to it. If you want to read any more, the link will be coming up in the video and it's also in the description box.